Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Oh, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. O Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Kaya Chaksurunmilitam yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Nama Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Twadalai Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Nama Yang Pravajantam Manupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraka Taruajuhava Putri Titanmayataya Tadavo Banidus Tam Sarvabhu Hridayam Munimanatosmi Bhaktya Vihinai Aparada Lakshay Chiptas Kamadi Tarangamadi Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapadyam Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tavoivasmi Tavoivasmi Najivami Tambina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tam Nayamam Charanantike Kripayati Yadi Radha Padita Sheshapadha Kemaparavashishtam Pusti Maryadayorme Yadi Vadati Chakinchit Smiraha Soditasvi Twijavade Mani Punktya Mukti Shuktya Tadakyam Shama Sundara Shikhanda Shekhara Smiraha Samurali Mano Radhika Rasikama Kripanidhi Swapriya Charana Kinkari Karo Prananatha Vishabhadani Srimakabjara Salola Satapada Radhika Padatale Kapastiti Tam Bhajame Rasikendra Shekhara Sambhadaya Dashine Trinam Bibo Partaye Brajamahendra Nandana Astu Mohan Tavati Balava Janma Janmane Mariswari Priya. If Sri Radha is merciful to me, then unlimited obstacles to my devotion will be removed. There will be nothing superior for me to attain, because I will have received the excellence offered by the paths of both Vaidhi and Rag. And if she speaks something, while smiling gently, thereby revealing the brilliance of the rows of her beautiful pearl-like teeth. What significance will the oyster of liberation have? O Shamasundar, O you whose head is adorned with peacock feathers, whose face is graced with a laughing smile, whose murli flute enchants the mind, and who are most expert in relishing ras with Srimati Radhika. O ocean of mercy, please make me a kinkari at the feet of your beloved. You are the Lord of the life of the daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj, and you are like a bee, always eager to taste the nectar of her lotus-like face. O Rasi Kendra Shekhar, foremost of those who are Rasik, who are situated at the feet of Srimati Radhika, I worship you. O son of the king of Braj, O all-pervading one, O Mohan, who enchants the minds of all. Taking a piece of straw in my teeth, I pray that your supremely beloved Sri Radha be my dear worshipful goddess, birth after birth. First I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Astotri Sat Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, and the same unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Shiksha Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Astotri Sat Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Parati Goswami Maharaj, and to our grandfather gurus, Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj, and Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, to all of his divine associates, and to all the assembled devotees. And the assembled devotees, Diksha Gurus or my Shiksha Gurus, Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Madhav Maharaj, Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Pan Maharaj, and Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Siddhanti Maharaj. So today is the second day of our glorification, or rather hearing the glorification from our Guru Varga of Sri Jiva Goswami. I believe that what's his name? Atul Krishna Prabhu will be here tonight to give the Bhagavad Gita class, to give us inspiration on how to do it, since he's so experienced. So, I think before going into statements of Srila Jiva Goswami and defining them, I think the best thing to do first is to define the word Swarup. Can anybody say what the Swarup is?
One's own intrinsic spiritual eternal form.
Anything else? Form, name, services,
Dress.
dress, service. Good. And I'll read a couple of quotes from Srila Prabhupada, how he uses it in a sentence. The spiritual form, a spiritual form like the Lord's, either two-handed or four-handed, is attained by the devotees of the Lord, either in Vaikuntha or Goloka, according to the original nature. See, that might throw us off when it says is attained. But it's according to the original nature of the soul. This form, which is 100% spiritual, is the Swarup of the being. Attainment of this stage of pure spiritual life is the highest perfection, and this stage is called Swarup, or the factual identity. Again, we have attainment, but then we also have factual identity. Liberation means renovation of this stage of Swarup. Renovation means it was there, and it became not there. It's eternally there, but it became covered, concealed. So it needs to be uncovered. In that perfect stage of Swarup, the living being is established in 5 phases of loving service, one of which is the stage of Madhuras, or the humor of conjugal love. Okay, so now this next statement is by Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj. And what it does show is that we can't understand the higher or more distant acharyas except by the mercy of the closer ones. So the question was asked in the assembly of Prabhupada's godbrothers, in the place of, it was either the place of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj or Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, because the two of them were giving the answers. So the question was that there seems to be a contradiction among our various acharyas. Like, for example, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Jivera Sarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das, that we are eternally Krishna's servant. And that means if there's a servant and then that service, if the jiva, if the servant is eternal, then the service must also be eternal. It doesn't change by certain conditions. And then where was I? So Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj is quoting various acharyas to prove that the Swarup is inherent in the constitutional form of the Lord. It's not attained by any kind of association. So this devotee is asking the question. On one side, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is saying this, and on the other side, Srila Narottam Das Thakur is saying that one attains a spiritual form and service according to his practice of sadhana. Well, I'm not going to get into all the long arguments, but the main one is that there's no contradiction, because Srila Narottam Das Thakur's statement discusses Raganuga sadhana, not Vaidhi Bhakti sadhana. In Raganuga sadhana, it's already revealed to the sadhak, to the devotee, what his form is. And so that will be his practice, what is. Not that he's making up something and just by practice, that thing comes out. That's the gist of the whole chapter. So, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj he speaks something that I would not have understood to mean that the Swarup is eternal in the constitutional form, and that our constitutional form is eternal. Okay, listen to this. See if you would have understood it. The correct conception of Swarup Tattva, of the Jiva, has been given in the verse Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Means it's already there, and then it in the Darpan, in the mirror of the heart, by chanting, the mirror is cleansed so we can see ourselves in the mirror of the heart. And then, to support that, and then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives an elaborate explanation of that. And then Param Gurudev quotes Srila Jiva Goswami's. Srila Jiva Goswami's conclusion on this subject is that when the Supreme Absolute Truth is equipped with the sum total of Jiva Shakti, can you turn on the AC? With the sum total of the Jiva Shakti, then his minute expansion is known as Jiva. Now, would you get it from that? I wouldn't have gotten it. But because it's in the argument, we know that it's substantial. And then he says, Baladev Bijabhusan Prabhu agrees with that. Because we need the closer ones to explain the further ones. Sri Baladev Bijabhusan, who compiled the Govinda Bhasya of Vedanta Sutra. Govinda Bhasya of Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra is the sutra means compressed, a compressed statement that has lots of meaning. And that's written by Vyasadeva himself. And the commentary on that was written by Govinda, the Govinda deity, who dictated the meaning to Baladev Bijabhusan, is of the same opinion. Now we're going to open it up a bit. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, is the supremely conscious being, Vibhu Chaitanya, whereas the Jiva is the minutely conscious being, Anu Chaitanya. Ishvara is eternally radiant with all auspicious, unlimited, transcendental qualities. He has a completely pure ego. He's both the knower and the embodiment of knowledge. Similarly, the Jiva also has his own pure Swarup. Most of the qualities of Ishvara are also partially present in the Jiva, and he has a pure ego. This conception, this is a continuation of Baladev, who is agreeing with Jiva Goswami. It's Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj quoting Baladev Bijabhusan, who is agreeing. This conception is not opposed to logic, for the qualities of the sun are also seen in the atomic particles of sunshine, and similarly, the qualities of the Supreme Truth are observed to be partially present in the jivas. But because of the living entity is averse to the Supreme Controller, his pure Swarup is concealed by Maya. You might ask then, if he already has his Swarup, how could he ever make the wrong decision and become averse? It's because of this, which is that when we were manufactured by Krishna, the soul was manufactured. We're eternal, but still we have to use mundane language. So when we were manufactured by Krishna. The potency for the relationship with Krishna was there, but not the full manifestation of the Swarup. Because when he manufactured us, he manufactured the seed in which that relationship is potential. And then, even though it's a potency and it's not fully manifest, only what is there in the seed will be manifest in the full tree. So that's why, because the Swarup Shakti has not descended in its full form yet, which comes at Bhava Bhakti, when the soul meets, the soul Swarup is revealed. So until that time, we're not a tree yet. We're the seed. And therefore, that seed, the potential can be covered, but not the reality. So once we become pure devotees, we can't fall. I don't know if that makes sense. Does it make sense?
I didn't understand why then a pure devotee can't fall.
Because when one is a pure devotee, the Swarup Shakti has descended from Goloka Vrindavan, from the heart of a Ragatmika Bhakta, into the heart of the sadhak, the jiva. And so then his full blooming Swarup is manifest. Now the Swarup is made of spiritual energy. The Swarup is made of, you could say, Chit Shakti, or, spiritual potency. And the spiritual potency cannot be covered by the material potency. But because in our seed stage, the potency for that is there, but not the actual full-blown Swarup Shakti. Like the Swarup Shakti is the spiritual world, and that's what we're made of, the spiritual world. So the spiritual world can never be covered by Maya. So the sadhak jiva goes on hearing and chanting. Pure bhakti appears in his heart, and the function of the essence of Hladini and Samvit, which is personified as Radha and Krishna, or the transcendental emotional knowledge potency and the happiness potency, known together as Bhakti Devi, removes all desires and aspirations except for the service of Bhagavan. After all ignorance is dispelled, the jiva's gross and subtle coverings are both destroyed by the Vidya Vritti. Vidya Vritti is the knowledge potency, or Divya Saraswati, or Radharani. Vidya Badu Jivanam. Vidya, knowledge. Badu means bride. Vidya Badu Jivanam. The chanting is the life and soul of the personality of transcendental knowledge. That's Radharani. At once the jiva's pure, constitutional, transcendental body appears, beginning from Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing the dust from the mirror of the heart. Those who are eligible to taste Madhurya Ras attain the pure spiritual body of a gopi. Right, so there are other quotes here, like the publishers of Srupa the Jiva go backwards from, like, the most contemporary, who's Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and then Gurudev and Srila Maharaj, and back. So then they go back to Jiva Goswami to show that he's saying it too. Okay. Sanityo nitya sambandha prakritis cha puraiva sa. This is from Jiva Goswami's commentary on the Brahma Samhita. He wrote a very elaborate commentary. The living entities, well, first, on verse 21, so first the Brahma Samhita is quoted, and then Jiva Goswami's commentary. The living entities, so our first one we're quoting actually is Lord Brahma. The living entities are eternal because we're in his disciplic succession, Lord Brahma. The living entities are eternal, and they have an eternal relationship with Bhagavan that extends throughout time, with neither beginning nor end. By constitution, they are intrinsically his superior potency. Then Jiva Goswami's Tika. Do you know what Tika means? It means commentary. The constitutional position of the living entities is being described in this half slok. The word nitya, eternal, indicates that the living entity exists throughout beginningless and endless time. The living entity is an intimate and inseparable. That means that we're not able to be separated from Krishna. And we have an inseparable, eternal relationship with him called Samavaya Sambandha. The living entities have an eternal relationship with Bhagavan, just as the rays of the sun are always related to the sun. Can you ever separate them? Same in quality, inseparable relation of the whole and the rays. This is separate. This is quoted from his one of his Sat Sandarbhas, which is the Paramatma Sandarbha, all about the Supersoul. When the blissful spiritual consciousness, Anandatmake, Ananda Atma, when the blissful spiritual consciousness is pervertedly reflected in material consciousness, the individual soul thinks, I will not act for your benefit. I will only act for my benefit. And then another quote also from the Paramatma Sandarbha. Here in the previous verse, the word para vidyanena means by entering the material world and thinking I am made of matter. In this way, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material energy as his field of activities. Isn't that crazy? And thus actuated, he wrongly applies the activities of himself. Only when a person is covered by materialistic false ego does he think in this way. At the same time, without an original sense of I, there's got to be an original sense of I as well. The soul cannot identify the full sense of I. A soul who's convinced of his pure spiritual identity has no reason to enter the material world. This is also from the Priti Sandarbha, which is the Sandarbha, the last one, which is all about Priti, or love of God.
Which translations are you
Referring to a few. One is, we went first to, what's his name, my God brother? Kushakrata, but then I went over it with Mukunda and this devotee named Radhika. I don't know if you know her. She's Russian. She... What? She what? She's already a professor at Harvard of Sanskrit. Yeah, so I had a lot of conversation with her and Mukunda. So wherever they felt that Kushakrata was wrong, then we adjusted it. Because there are a lot of opportunities for mistakes in these translations. So, although the individual soul is part and parcel of the Lord, his knowledge of that connection has been non-existent since a time without beginning. It doesn't mean eternal, because that would contradict that we're eternally Krishna's servant. Time without a beginning means it's within time, but it's so long that you can't calculate it. This is also from the Paramatma Sandarbha. The material potency is also described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam 10:87-38. The illusory material nature attracts the minute living entity to embrace her, and as a result, he assumes forms composed of her qualities, material nature's qualities. Subsequently, he loses all of his spiritual qualities and must undergo repeated deaths. He loses them, but he never really loses them. They're just concealed. So, in the beginning of this book, there's a introduction, which is called definition, because sometimes words are used in the verses and purport that aren't really true. Like when it says that we forget, what is it? Actually, we never have experienced. We forgot our spiritual constitution. We forgot the spiritual world, but we were never there. So when it uses that, it's just because there's no English equivalence. So therefore they use those words. I asked Gurudev a lot about that. So then you forgot and then you remember, but we never experienced it, so we can't really remember it. It doesn't play into it. Then Jiva Goswami writes, liberation is being permanently situated in one's true form and nature after one gives up the changeable, gross, and subtle material bodies. In this verse, the primary meaning of the word Swarup is the form of the Lord. However, because the individual spirit souls are fragmental parts, in the same way that the rays of sunlight are fragmental parts of the sun planet, the word Swarup may also refer to the individual soul. Now, we're going to get into the juicier parts, which is apparent contradictions. So, you all know Sri Prem Prayojana Prabhu. So he's speaking with Srila Bharati Maharaj, and he asks, Srila Jiva Goswami has discussed Jiva Tattva in the Sandarbhas, especially the Paramatma Sandarbha. There, he has not described any Vaishistya, which means speciality, to make him individual between the different jivas. There's no speciality. They are the same. Yet, which would correspond to those who say that his swarup is a blank slate, and then by association you get the blank slate written on. It means that you can go anywhere. They say that Tatastha doesn't mean, like we understand the tattva, you can go to the spiritual world or the material world. They say it means you can go anywhere to any ras, any relationship. Big sannyasis say that. So anyway, he's telling Srila Maharaj, yet we see in the writings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as in Jaiva Dharma, that each living entity has an individual potential for a particular swarup. At a certain time, when the potential will mature, a certain relationship or ras with Bhagavan will manifest. So he's asking, how can we reconcile this? How can we know that they're both pure devotees, Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur? So how do we recognize this apparent contradiction? Do you get the contradiction? One is that there's no difference between one jiva and another. It's the same spiritual substance. And one is that they have individual potentials. They're both exalted in our disciplic succession. Everything that they both write is perfect. So Srila Bharati Maharaj answered, they are not writing a different thing. They have expressed the same thing in a different way. That's why we need the pure devotees to explain everything to us. From the point of view of the category of jiva, there's no difference in the category of jiva. Jiva is eternal, jiva is by nature blissful, jiva is transcendental to matter. Jiva is beyond time and space. So in reference to category, the jiva is the same. And all are servants of Krishna. That's common to all. That is correct. But when you consider the ras, the dasya, sakya, vatsalya, madhurya, in the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, each ras is a development of the other. It's not that you go from one ras to the other. It's just that each rasa has the same qualities as the previous rasa, but it has two additional qualities. Like, for example, neutrality. It has detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna or to God. And then dasya has that, plus there's an addition of service, which neutrality doesn't. I know that the President of America is great, but I don't have any relationship with him. All right, so each rasa is a development of the other. Let's take Vatsalya ras. So friendship ras has intimacy, considering one equal to Krishna. It also has the qualities of das, of service. But it also has a maintenance, that to maintain and support Krishna. And then Madhurya has 2 more. Yeah, he explains it. In other words, each rasa contains the components of the previous rasa plus something else. Jivera Sarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitidas. That's the commonality. So it gets into the mango. You know the thing about the mango? The bud of the mango is called mango. Then the mango becomes a small fruit, and then a bigger fruit, and then a completely ripened fruit. All the stages are called mango. And still we experience them as subsequent stages. So all the rasas have servitude, dasya, but each one has dasya with more intimacy. Like Mother Yasoda also bathes Krishna like the servants, but she's more concerned that the water be exactly right. So that's one. Okay. So let's go to Srila Jiva Goswami on the Jiva's eternal individuality. That the individual spirit soul is the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord is confirmed by the words in the Padma Purana. The individual spirit soul is the abode of knowledge. He has knowledge as one of his intrinsic qualities. He possesses consciousness. He's beyond the world of matter, never born, never changes, possesses a single form, which remains continuously situated in its original spiritual nature. That would be a commonality. So now we're going to the category called Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur helps us understand, because so many people in the dress of devotees say that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is different from Jiva Goswami. He kind of leads us astray. But here we see how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur helps us understand. And this is something in the introduction to the Brahma Samhita. The profound and confidential philosophical conclusions. Janardhan, you want to stand? The profound and confidential philosophical conclusions of Brahma Samhita are practically incomprehensible without the help of the Tika of Jiva Goswami, whose esoteric and penetrating insights are also difficult to understand. So, Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who's the eternal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is the Bhagirati, or the Ganges River, who caused the Ganges of Bhakti to flow once again after it was covered before his appearance. With the help of his purports, one can easily have access to the hidden moods of the original text of Jiva Goswami's deep considerations. And Srila Gurudev said in France in 1997, if he had not appeared in this world all the teachings of Gaudiya Vaishnavism would have been forever drowned in the ocean of oblivion. He said, I want to hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur more than anyone, because he is nearer to us and he has written so many books. He knows Srila Viswanath Chakrabarti Thakur. He knows Rupa Goswami. He knows Jiva Goswami, Raghunatha Goswami, everyone. He knows Veda and Shastra, and he's very near to us, because he appeared when? 100 years ago. Let's see what else. All right, so as I mentioned, many people who say that they're in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line of conception, they say it means you can go anywhere. So therefore, Gurudev is quoting Jiva Goswami again in the Paramatma Sandarbha. Because the Jiva's position is between the nature of the potency of material ignorance and the nature of spiritual energy, the individual soul has been called marginal potency. And that's Jiva Goswami. Now the most interesting of the apparent contradictions, which by the mercy of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur we get clarified. This is a whole chapter called Awarded means manifested. Awarded doesn't mean that, I know all of this sounds very technical, but who knows, you might need it when people say something else. Right, so awarded doesn't mean you didn't have it and then you won the prize. It just means manifested. And that's also confirmed by Srila Baladev Vidyabhusan. All right, so people interpret Jiva Goswami as to say that there are kind of like inert, like coats on a hanger. You know when a coat is on the hanger, it doesn't move, it's just on the hanger. Nobody's wearing it. And then the soul comes into Vaikuntha and puts on the coat. And that's his spiritual body. So, because in the Bhagavatam, talking about Narada Muni, it says, having been awarded a transcendental body, befitting an associate of the Lord, I, Narada Muni, quit the body made of the 5 gross elements, and thus all acquired fruitive results of work stopped. In other words, the body is made of fruitive activities and the results of them. But everything stops because he quit his material body and got a spiritual body, like lightning and illumination occur simultaneously. Do we see any example of first lightning comes and then illumination? No, it's the same time. Similarly, he quit his material body and got his spiritual body at the same time. So then, Gurudev, he was calling on a lot of his senior sannyasis. This is in 2002. Gurudev was calling on his senior sannyasis to explain all this, and nobody got it. It's so complex. So there's a verse. So then Gurudev explained everything. There's a verse in a Priti Sandarbha. It's not exactly a verse. It's a prose verse. What's the difference? One rhymes and one doesn't. In Vaikuntha, okay, this sounds funny. Might sound funny to you. In Vaikuntha, there are unlimited spiritual forms, which are all Jyotir, Angsa, Bhuta, forms which have emanated from the effulgence of the form of the Lord. Forms that have emanated from the effulgence of the form of the Lord. When a devotee becomes liberated, then the Lord makes that soul one with one of those unlimited forms. It's like the coat on the hanger, or the parked car. And then somebody comes and drives it, and then it seems alive, the car. So he becomes one with, it's very poetic. You know, like Srila Sridhar Maharaj is very poetic. Or let's say our Prabhupada. He said that the body is the coating over the soul. It's not really a coating, because it's not necessarily the same shape as a human covering the soul. If it's a cat's soul, if it's the soul of a peacock, say for example, then he doesn't necessarily get a peacock material coating or a clay matter over the soul. It's not like that. And when it's stated, say when Prabhupada states that the soul is sleeping inside the body, it doesn't mean there's a little man in there who's sleeping. So therefore we need one pure devotee to understand another. So Gurudev says, we hear that Jiva Goswami has written in Priti Sandarbha, Anuched 10, in relation to Salokya Mukti. What's Salokya Mukti? Yeah, you get that liberation of Vaikuntha, where you live on the same planet. There are unlimited spiritual bodies of associates in the Vaikuntha planets that have manifest from the effulgence of the Lord. These spiritual bodies are waiting to be occupied by the living entities who have become perfect by sadhana bhajan. Doesn't it kind of sound like that? But it's not at all. So, when a jiva attains perfection, the Lord gives him one of these bodies. He mixes a particular associate's body with the jiva and gives that body to him. These associates' bodies are illuminated by the Lord's energy, yet they are near jiva, means they're not conscious. They're dormant. So maybe some of these words will kind of start clicking. So these bodies, which are manifestations of the Lord's effulgence, they're near jiva. They're dormant, like a parked car. While waiting for jiva to attain perfection, what it really means is that the constitutional form of the jiva, the swarupa of the jiva, is dormant in our soul until we realize our constitutional form. Like the tree, is dormant in the seed. All the potency of the tree, the type of fruit, the type of flower, is all there in potency in the seed. Life is there, but this is the unreal understanding. Life is there, but they remain as if unconscious, a chaitan. When the jiva merges into one of those spiritual associates' bodies, then in that body he serves the Lord. So now Bhaktivinoda Thakur,
Was that the?
it's all fake.
But is that the translation of Srila Jiva Goswami's verse, or that's what the people think he's saying?
The translation of the verse is, in Vaikuntha, there are unlimited spiritual forms, which are all Jyotir, Angsa, Bhuta, means forms that have emanated from the effulgence of the form of the Lord. Like I have some effulgence, and then forms came out of that impersonal effulgence. That when a devotee becomes liberated, the Lord makes that soul one with one of those unlimited forms. It's pretty much the same. It's an expansion of their conception of the translation.
Meaning, but what you were saying as well of like, then the soul gets to take on one of those bodies. Is that part of?
It's them.
But that's not even at all in what he says.
Not at all.
I just want to
It
make sure I understand where the
does
quote ended.
Right, it does sound like that.
So what you were saying then in that second half is what the interpretation is. You said the quote and then what the incorrect interpretation is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you.
So now we're going to get Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's correct understanding. He's known as the seventh Goswami, no less than any Goswami, including Jiva Goswami. And he is Kamala Manjari. He has explained Jiva Swarup in apparently different way. He has said that of the Nitya Parikars, or eternal associates, who have manifest from Baladev Prabhu, some are performing devotional service in Vrindavan in their spiritual forms. They've never come here. They manifest directly from Baladev. Some manifest from Baladev's expansion as Mool Sankarshan. So they are eternally serving in Dwarka. Some are manifested from Baladev's expansion in Vaikuntha, called Mahasankarshan, and they forever serve the Lord in Vaikuntha. They never come here. They're all called parikars, associates. They're not called jivas because they never had to go through the thing. The word jiva is not used. They are called parikars regardless of whether they are sadhansita, that they got there from the material world, or nityasiddha, eternally perfect. Some nityasiddha associates are kaya vyuha prakash, bodily manifestations of Baladev, like the cowherd boys. And some are kaya vyuha prakash of Shrimati Radhika, like the gopis. Regarding the jiva who has come from the region of Tatastha, and then from Mahasankarshan, he engages all the jivas or parikars in the service of Narayan. Then he expands as Mahavishnu. And from him come the Tatastha jivas who have the choice. They can go up, they can go down. Regarding the jiva who has come from the Tatastha, the marginal line, the imaginary line between the spiritual and material worlds, His situation has been compared to the bank of a river. Sometimes the water will go up over the bank, sometimes it will go down. The Tata Reka. Reka means line, and Tata means the marginal. Like, you know, when you go to the beach, there's a line between the water and the land, right, on the beach. But it's an imaginary line. It keeps moving. It's not a line. So, but when it says sometimes he's in the spiritual world and sometimes he's in the material world, it doesn't mean you can go to the spiritual world and then come back to the material world. It means that there are different living entities. Some are in the spiritual world and some turn to the material world. The Tatareka, the marginal line between the water of the river and its bank, is both water and land, being situated where the two meet. Since the divine Tatastha Shakti is situated at the margin of matter and spirit, sometimes he's under the influence of matter and sometimes of spirit. Now that can apply to the same jiva. Like sometimes I'm in Krishna consciousness, sometimes I'm in Maya. So I may go back and forth, but I've never gone to the spiritual world. I'm just less in Maya. And I'm decide to come to the temple and chant. So that's towards spirit. You got the difference? Among those who have come from Tatastha, some looked towards the Lord and some looked away. Those who looked towards him went to Vaikuntha right away. And those who looked towards material world became attracted to the material energy and came to the material world. But even for those jivas who became attracted to this world, in their jiva swarupa hoy Krishnera Nityadas, their perfectional relationship with Krishna, it's already there. How could it be there if, we haven't realized it, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. Oh, you'll need this, won't you, in that class? Not. It's too technical. Similarly, as a potency, everything is there in the Jiva Swarup, or constitutional form, but not yet manifested or developed. Well, if it's eternal, then how could it not yet be manifested? Because it's in potency right now. Everything is there. The tree is there. It's just dormant. It's very scientific. All of our Goswamis have written in this way. For example, Baladev Vijayabhusan, in his commentary of Vedanta Sutra, called Govinda Bhasya, he has written in this way that I'm explaining, and in the way Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained. In the Jiva Swarup, everything is Chinmoy, transcendental and eternal. Even now it's eternal, in the form of a potency. So now he's going back to Jiva Goswami, showing what he really means. How do we reconcile this with Srila Jiva Goswami's statement? Srila Jiva Goswami seems to say that there is a body of an associate in the spiritual world, and when the jiva attains perfection, both merge, the car or the coat and the living jiva. Then he can serve, because now he has a body. Before he didn't have a body, they say. Before that, the jiva is not able to do any kind of service. And that can be reconciled by the statement, before Bhav, he can't do any service. Like the Raganuga Bhakta, it's when he reaches Bhav that he goes into internal consciousness and his soul can experience his service in the spiritual world. And then he loses that, and then he starts crying. But he's not yet conscious of this material world. He's just crying and remembering that. And then he comes to external consciousness. And he cries, but he can still function here. He can write, he can speak, he can eat. So you got that connection? Before Bhav.
I just want to make sure I understood it right. That you were saying that that is also the argument that the misguided party will make to justify their statement. They'll justify their statement of, oh, well, the jiva can't do service until he has his car, his seva car, because,
Yes.
and that's
right.
justified because in Shastra it's given that until one's in Bhav, one can't do any service.
Yeah, that's when he starts experiencing his spiritual form. In this, a question arises. In that world, the Jiva Swarup is being saved for him while he's still here doing sadhana. The Swarup which is here and the Swarup which is of the associate, which is there, will be different than the Swarup that's here. The Goswamis are saying that the Jiva's Swarup, in it, everything is present. So how can we reconcile Srila Jiva Goswami's statement with what our other Goswamis are saying? Then he quotes the first canto, Prayujamani, means that Narada was awarded with his spiritual body. What is awarded? What two things mix? Now this we'd never have gotten if we didn't read it here. What two things mixed? Krishna's mercy and Guru's mercy is one thing that mixes with what? It mixes with, that's awarded. Merely performing thousands of sadhana activities will not do. You have to get the mercy of Krishna and Krishna's devotee. When the two meet, the endeavor of the jiva, the hard work of sadhana, and Guru's mercy, when they mix, one is awarded with the spiritual body of an associate. Now, this point must be presented. Very important that Gurudev says all the time. Material language is incompetent or unable to comprehend and express spiritual matters. So even though Jiva Goswami is liberated, he's not in Maya. But because our senses are in Maya and our language is Maya, we can't understand him. Gurudev said, even if Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita, we can't understand him. What to speak of when one human is trying to speak to another human? So material language is unable, incompetent to express spiritual matters. There will always be some fault, even if Jiva Goswami speaks, or Krishna speaks, or whoever speaks. When they speak, those who are from the spiritual world will obviously understand, but conditioned souls in the material world won't. Therefore, Jiva Goswami's verse about the parked cars won't be understood. What is it called? Near Jiva, yes. Unconscious. So even when you utter the word tatasta, which is a Sanskrit word, there's going to be some defect in understanding it. So if we say that Krishna performed his pastimes, does that mean that his pastimes were not being performed before that time? There is some impurity in mundane language. Only by sadhana, bhajan, can one understand when he becomes realized. Can he understand any? Like if you say the jiva is one with, one in quality, and different in quality, different in quantity from Krishna, right? One is minute, one is unlimited. And the analogy is given of the gold in the gold mine and the gold in a little bracelet. Its quality is the same if it's a pure gold ring and different in quantity. But that's not a good analogy. Well, Prabhupada writes, I was wondering if somebody was going to ask that. Because there's a section in the introduction where definitions are given, where Prabhupada explains that. Latent seed, potency, original. Hope I can find it. Forgetting, remembering. The logic of the moon on the branch. And here's before I find that, here's a statement by Raghunath Das Babaji to his disciple. The time and space that you experience in the material world are completely different from the time and space in the spiritual world. Material time is divided into past, present, future, but the spiritual world is one undivided, eternally present time. Every event of the spiritual world is eternally present. That's pretty amazing. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to find that analogy of the small on the big. I'll have to look later because it may take some time. Okay, Haridas? I'll do that.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah. We're just about to end. So Prayujamani. Here the mercy of Bhagavan along with sadhana of the jiva combine. You know, like the monkey and the cat? When they both combine, the Parikar Swarup, in other words, the Siddha Swarup, or Siddha Deha, is manifested, or you could say awarded, and realized, not before. Do you understand? Our Nitya Siddha body is thus realized and illuminated, and thereafter understood at that time, not before. He says this occurs at the stage above. The Siddha Deha is here in this world, but it is of that place. So that's so interesting. Like when Jiva Goswami said, it's in Vaikuntha. Although it's here, like Gurudev was walking here, but it's of that place. He's of that place. He's from that place, and he's still in that place. So that's the meaning. Therefore, don't just call it a mood or a bhav. Understand fully that by his mercy, a Nitya Siddha Swarup that is completely transcendental and of Goloka Vrindavan is manifest. There's no question of joining a jiva with a spiritual body that is waiting in Vaikuntha. There's only one spiritual body. It's already there. With what will it join? Prayojamani means that when mercy and sadhana mix, then realization and illumination occur. Realization and illumination are bestowed or awarded to that jiva. Jiva has one siddhadeha, one perfected form. Since when? Right from the moment the jiva was, quote unquote, created. From that, quote unquote, time onward, this has nothing to do with the material time. There is one perfected spiritual body in which he performs service, or in which he can serve Bhagavan in the future. I think we're coming to the end. When will we realize this? By the mercy of Bhagavan and Guru, and by performing continuous sadhana, that Nityasiddha body and bhav will manifest and come into our realization. That's it. Are there any questions or comments?
But so when you say that our material language is mundane and that are you saying that there's like a frequency of the material language that can only be understood by like the spiritually enlightened and it makes sense, or it's just a completely different language that's just like unfathomable to
It's
us?
the same words.
Same words, just different frequency to those who are able to understand it.
You could say that.
Okay.
Any other?
All
I know
right.
it's a very tedious subject. Yes.
So when Krishna first manufactured us, right, and we're in the Tatashta, I mean, is that like a particular place? And do we have like a particular body at that point of manufacturing? I'm just want to try and conceive that when that first happened, and then we'll be like, oh, I mean, I'll go towards Krishna. I'm just, you know, I just want to pinpoint that very first part. And I mean, at the same time, if we were that close to making the decision of going towards Krishna or not going towards Krishna, does that mean that we were actually at that point, we were so close to Krishna that we didn't get to Krishna? Does that make sense?
What?
Like teetering on the edge? Like we were so close
Yeah.
Oh, 'cause
we're
it's
on the
just
edge,
a
and where,
Tatasta
where,
line.
where were we? And like, did we have a body at that point? And were we actually like face to face with Krishna at one point? Like, I'm just kind of want to dive deeper into that.
You know the example of the edge of the knife, right? But that's just about the knife. But we can't really understand. This whole book is about something that we can't understand. We think that when we hear the pastimes of the gopis and we laugh or we feel sad that we're experiencing that. But if we can't even get this, how it's just our imagination that we think we've got. Oh, and then Radharani and the Sakis laughed, and then Radharani got milk all over her face, and then everybody laughed except for her. But it's not like that at all. We can't understand material rain, material milk, how Krishna aimed the cow's teats towards Radharani and squirted her. Not at all. or that Radharani and Krishna spoke sweet nothings. You know how a young boy and girl meet and then they don't talk about anything that makes sense, but it makes sense to their relationship. So anyway, when we were first created, we had the choice of going up or down. Is that what you mean? We never had a developed spiritual body. We only had the seed, which is clarified here. But it's not like the seed of the material world. Therefore, the only way we can understand it is by bhajan.
Okay, so let's say one gets to the spiritual world, right? One day, and so and also like, what if, like there's like a naughty manjari or like naughty gopi who's just really bad, like they don't get ousted out of Goloka. I mean, is that a
What, Prasanti? So the naughtiness there, and sometimes like super naughty is Krishna, but that's worshipable. And the perverted reflection of that is reprehensible. Krishna's stealing butter. Krishna's urinating all over the floor of the kids of the other houses. They're all worshipable. And any naughty gopi is also. I mean, the gopis, chastise Krishna there. Call him all kinds of names, which he loves more than the hymns of the Vedas. He's attracted to that. We can't understand it all.
As you were speaking, I was thinking about this verse from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, "The soul is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same." And I was wondering, where is the soul, like, situated right now? Like, if it has a location, because it says it's all pervasive. And then I guess a clarifying question is, when we attain our swarup, the soul, the jiva and the swarup, the body is the soul at that point. Like, they become one. So, yeah, I guess where is
we'll
it?
be at that time is Goloka.
Or where is our soul now? Is it in the body or is it somewhere else? And
That's a
we're
good
just
question.
plugged into this, like, the consciousness of this
Well,
body.
we are beyond time and space. And so we're not exactly in the body, but we think we are. I don't really know how to explain it in a way that even I would understand. I can try Sripad Maharaj and see what happens. I understand the difficulty. But then that makes us humble. Where am I? I can say who I am because I'm repeating. But where am I? I'm beyond time and space. I'm in that Tata region. I will ask him, see what he says. I'm sure he was there in 3 different languages when Gurudev was asked. This place, this material world, is like a svapna stan, a dream world. We are now in full worldly knowledge. It seems that we're awake. that someone else is dreaming, that someone else is asleep without dreaming. But actually, this place is like a dream place. When we see any dream, we're neither fast asleep nor in such deep sleep that we are fully unconscious, because we are Chid Vastu, or we are spiritual substance. We're just dreaming. But where are we dreaming? I'll ask him. Any other? Yeah.
Just curious how we should see other jivas. Like, also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, a humble sage with virtue of true knowledge sees with equal vision, gentle and learned brahmana, etc., etc. But now, we heard so much from our acharyas that actually there's a swarup, but we don't know what it is. So is it better to think this is just an atomic spiritual particle of consciousness, or to implant some idea of
We
this?
can't plant an idea
Yeah.
unless that person's Gurudev told them at the time of Diksha that think of yourself as this. You can ask them if they heard anything from Gurudev. But otherwise we can't. We can know that maybe 75% at least of people in this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement are of that relationship. But I mean, all of this does make us humble, especially what we can't understand. We don't even know where we are, like she said. Where am I? Yeah. Okay, I'll ask him. That's it? Sanji's saying yes, that's it. I'll still try to find that for you, Haridas. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Bo, Hare Bo. In this conditioned life, we can't separate ourselves from material past, present, and future. We're stuck. Okay. What? We got to get out of here. Out of ignorance.